right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. In this one, I wanted to focus in on one of the best quarterback performances of the last couple of days, right? Obviously, we're just wrapped up round 2 of the college football playoff. And yes, of course, Fernando Mendoza did just dominate Alabama's defense, but he's the projected number 1 overall pick. In this one, I wanted to focus in on Trinidad Chambliss, quarterback from Ole Miss, somebody who a lot of you guys, a lot of Jets fans have been talking about for the entire season, going back to November, right? I remember seeing comments, and you guys know who you are, right? I remember seeing these comments, be on the lookout for Trinidad, be on the lookout for Shamblas. He's putting up great numbers. He's doing a lot of things. He's winning a bunch of games. Just looks like the offense just flows. The offense just flows with Shamblas. Now, as we all know, last night put on a crazy performance. I thought that Ole Miss was going to hang around for 3 quarters, but then in the end, it was going to be Georgia that pulls away. Nope, Ole Miss wins the game, and they advance. I'm really excited to see how Pete Golding and the squad does in this next round. Obviously, going up against that Miami Hurricanes defense, which is just a stone wall. Like, they are an immovable force, that defense, Bain, Mez, all these different guys. So it should be an interesting game, but let's talk about Trinidad. And so I got to be honest, right? I figured that Shamblas was just going back to school. But we had NFL draft insiders talking about Shamblas last night. Now, I don't know if it's kind of the instant, reaction type of thing, like the "what have you done for me lately?" But it seemed like there was just a lot of buzz going on, a lot of buzz online last night with some of the top guys in the industry. Not necessarily saying that he was like, oh, he's going to be a first-round pick or anything, but more so just kind of hinting at like, hey, if he does decide to declare for the NFL draft, this is a very, very, very thin QB class. We still don't know the futures of Dante Moore. We still don't know the futures of Ty Simpson, right? We have a lot of really, really, really talented quarterbacks going to different schools. Guys like Brandon Sorsby and Josh Hoover and all these, Sam Levitt, who we're going to talk about here in a second. Not to mention some of the underclassmen with, guys like Arch Manning and whatnot. And so again, for me, like, just because I love to follow college football. If you were looking into the reports around, Shamblas over, really since Lane Kiffin left, let's actually just look at the timeline, right? So Ole Miss, the season ends, and Lane Kiffin bounces to LSU. There was a report that came out suggesting that Shamblas was going to follow Kiffin to LSU and become the Tigers' starting quarterback. Obviously he had a great season this year for the Rebels. Like, being the starting quarterback for a Lane Kiffin offense, you're pretty much set up for success. I mean, the decision making in the offense it's so much maybe like you have so much less on your plate from like a mental standpoint. In a good way at college, where he just makes it so easy for the quarterback. Just read, react. Not, of course, in every single play, in every single situation, but there's a reason why every single quarterback that Lane Kiffin works with just immediately starts to produce. There's a reason why his offenses never slow down. Like, there's a reason why in the SEC he can just light up these talented, well-coached defenses basically on a week-to-week basis. So that was the assumption that Shamblas was going to follow Lane to LSU. Lane has his press conference and literally just tells everybody, hey, we are going to be spending like crazy. Like LSU's going to hit the portal hard. This LSU program is going to follow in Lane's vision. And to be honest with you, I think some people will actually be turned off with the amount of money that LSU spends on their roster, but different discussion for another day. Then we get the update that Sam Levitt is hitting the portal from Arizona State. And if we think about Sam Levitt, he's just kind of like a souped up Jackson Dart, right? Like a better more natural passer than Jackson Dart. He's tough, he's physical, he can run. In my opinion, I don't think he's going to be leaving a great situation like that to downgrade or hit up a lateral move. I think he's going to the SEC to test his abilities and to potentially become the number 1 overall pick next season. That's what I think is in Levitt's plans. And Lane makes a lot of sense, again, with the system fit and the offense and everything. Going to be surrounded by talent. I think there's a lot of people, like, I don't think it's a coincidence that a lot of people are pointing at LSU as the potential Sam Levitt destination. And so from that point, it was like, okay, well, Shamblas can just stay back at Ole Miss and continue to run it back with Pete Golding at the helm. But now, after him being 2-0 in the playoffs and him putting up this great season, and yes, of course, he's a senior, It's not like he's some 20-year-old redshirt sophomore or something. No, he is a senior, so he has been around, former D2 Ferris State quarterback, now with Ole Miss. And if we think back, he wasn't even the starter initially. They actually went with Austin Simmons to kick the year off, and he's actually from Miami. But regardless, they make the full swap to Trinidad, and he doesn't look back. Right? If we take a look at the numbers, over 3,600 passing yards, 21 passing touchdowns, 3 INTs, with 8 rushing touchdowns and 500 rushing yards. I mean, the guy's just a production machine. He hasn't really turned the ball over that much this season. Obviously, he's won a lot of games. He's been performing well in this Lane Kiffin offense. Of course, working with Charlie Weiss Jr. I mean, the Rebels offense fires on all cylinders, but I think what gets people really excited is like the off-script stuff. Yes, Trinidad has arm strength. Yes, he hits strikes and throws darts over the middle of the field. His deep ball accuracy is also there, but it's really just that magic, when the play breaks down or when the pockets start, when you have like a tackle get beat and an edge rusher's in the pocket. He can elude, he can escape, and there's like moments where there's like the Kyler Murray or the Josh Allen or even like the Johnny Manziel-esque types of plays where his back is to the defense and he's scrambling and running and then he finds someone down the field. And I think overall, again, I just assumed that Trinidad was going to go back to school and really try to milk out every single resource or check off every single box to ensure that I'm the most polished version of myself by the time I'm knocking on the door of the NFL saying I'm declaring for the NFL draft. So again, I think, and if we're talking SEC football with production, Trinidad, if he decides to go back to school, he's going to be a starter at Ole Miss if that's where he wants to go. I don't see them leapfrogging, a different prospect, right? For the sake of hanging on to some sort of 5-star guy. I would feel, good about Trinidad's chances of starting back at Ole Miss for next season. But again, if he goes on a run, if Ole Miss beats Miami, if he goes on and defeats the Hurricanes defense, where Julian Sain looked like a deer in headlights and Reed and the Texas A&M offense in College Station couldn't defeat them, I think we would start to really see that crazy rise. This week is a major opportunity for Trinidad to go out and have success against, again, a defense that frankly many fail at. Many people test that Hurricanes defense, many fall down. Again, despite the outcome, if he goes out there and just is ripping the ball over the middle of the field like he does, extending plays, eluding these dominant edge rushers that the Hurricanes possess, and is having success on a neutral field, I think, like if the Dane Bruglers of the world are, already starting to get their interest peaked, because these guys are connected. They are talking to scouts. They are talking to general managers. They are talking to college teams. They're talking to other insiders in the business here. Is there a world where Trinidad becomes this year's Jackson Dart? Ironically, no sort of Ole Miss, joke here or anything like that. Just so happens to be from the same school. But if we think back, like Jackson Dart's stock only started to rise after the year. Senior Bowl hits. He was considered a 3rd-round pick. After the Senior Bowl, it's like, whoa, this guy can maybe go in the 2nd round. Then after the Pro Day and kind of the strange Shedeur Sanders pre-draft process, Dart goes in round 1. I mean, I remember seeing mock drafts of Dart going 7 to the Jets, passing on Tyler Warren, Membu for Dart at 7. So, to act like we have all the answers right now in January about how the exact board is going to be laid out. Nope, we're so far from that. Yes, we could have favorites. Yes, we can make assumptions and stuff, which is all cool, like Mendoza going 1. But the story's not completely written. And I think, again, if Shamblas continues to impress, win or lose, if he goes out there and has success against the Hurricanes defense, that could be a massive seal of approval for NFL evaluators. Now, as much as the offense is successful at the college level, we do have to talk about how that offense translates to the NFL. And historically speaking, there's been a lot of swings and misses at the next level with some of these guys because the coaching staff and the offense does such a great job of putting the QB in a position to just make a decision. And that's like... So years ago, I met up with a college OC that worked on Lane Kiffin's staff at one point. and we were talking about this style of offense, the way he described some of the concepts was like a 2-on-1 fast break situation in basketball, right? Where you're dribbling up the court. If that middle defender, that lone defender crashes on you, you pass the ball. Alley-oop, bounce pass, whatever. If he sinks back and tries to defend the alley-oop or tries to defend the pass, then you charge the rim hard, right? You get aggressive with trying to, get to the basket, get to the rim. So you're reading one guy and you are making a decision, okay, depending on what he decides to do, crash forward, sink back, whatever it may be, whether that's a safety, whether that's the star, whether that's a linebacker, whether that's the extra man in the box, in RPOs, you're just reading one. You're not, having a 5, 7, 8 step drop back, scanning the entire field, really digesting what the entire field has to offer. It's simply reading one guy, and then from that point, he's giving you the answers to the test. His decision dictates where you throw the ball, and you have two options. Like, it's a simple spread concept, right? But in that Lane Kiffin offense, it's just so seamless. They do a really good job of hitting guys or getting guys open over the middle of the field, whether that's stuff like digs and in-breakers, or like up the seat, like up through the middle of the field where you can layer it right over the linebackers' heads and try to split the safeties right down the middle. Now, look at all the quarterbacks that have played in similar styles back in college, and even though they have a ton of success and a ton of production and a lot of great traits, think of like Bryce Petty for Baylor, Matt Corral, Ole Miss, he was another one of those Lane Kiffin QBs. Trevon Boykin, TCU. Although Boykin did have like a nice little stretch. He had a handful of games with the Seahawks. For the most part, it's a big transition. And it's not to say that these guys can't learn, they can't adapt at the next level. I mean, look at a guy like Jackson Dart. But it's just two different things. It's like, okay, this is not exactly what you're being asked to do every single down at the next level. There's a need for an evolution of just how the quarterback processes the game. And again, on one hand, you can view it as a con. On one hand, you can view it as a pro. Like, if you're a fan of college football and a fan of offensive football, you can look at Lane Kiffin's offense and be like, this guy's amazing. But is it really setting the player up for long-term success in the NFL? I would argue no. So it's an interesting kind of back and forth discussion there. And there are moments, of course, where he does miss some easy stuff, right? The wide open slants, the screens, the bubble screens where they just go right over the target's head. You can argue about maybe bailing out of the pocket too early here, but there's a lot of quarterbacks in college that have that issue. Sitting in a clean pocket, waiting, and then just leaving even though the pocket's still clean. Not super, super uncommon here. But overall, I'm pumped for him. If he decides to declare for the NFL draft, and again, he could definitely go back to school and collect NIL and continue to start and put up great numbers. He could definitely do that. And that could arguably be the right move. But if he decides, if he's looking at the draft class saying, it's pretty thin, my stock is rising here, should I try to maybe ride this wave here and potentially be a mid-round pick, potentially be a second-round pick? Does he have an organization or a coach fall in love with him or a skill set when they actually can sit down and meet with him? I think it's going to be an interesting, situation here as the draft season plays, or really as these next couple of weeks play out, because I think the deadline is January 14th, in 2 weeks here. So yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see what happens. But I'll tell you what, the talent in the 2027 draft class, like, you can make numerous arguments for tons of guys to go number one overall. All these guys in the portal, like, there are, Lenore Sellers going back to school. Like, there's a lot of guys that should have a lot of steam heading into the season. Does it work out all the time? No. But I mean, compared to this season, because people will throw out Drew Aller and Garrett Nussmeier and Cade Klubnik and whatnot. That's true, but that's 3 guys. Like, this upcoming season, we can literally talk about 8 to 9 guys. Literally potential first-round targets that have a lot of hype coming into the year. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Do you think the Jets should look into Shamblas? Especially if the Jets maybe fall in love with him and you're talking, okay, top of round 2. Now you can essentially go BPA in round 1 back to back. You don't feel forced into taking a QB at 3, because you don't have one, which I kind of disagree with that way of thinking to begin with. But regardless, just because I disagree with it, just because you may disagree with it, doesn't mean that the team won't do it anyway. I mean, look at the Steelers with Kenny Pickett. But again, I think it's going to be an interesting discussion. We'll see how it plays out. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, go Jets.